to our first assembly of 2025. We've got a great lineup set up for today, and of course some tasty pizza for afterwards. I guess we get into. I guess I'll just do it from my phone. Sorry, guys. So today we gathered this morning to connect with each other, with nature, and with our humanist values. Being here together builds our sense of community and kinship with each other. So let us listen to each other's stories with open hearts and open minds over delicious food as our ancestors have done for millennia. Let us remember that we have this one beautiful life, and today we're here to celebrate it. So I would like at this time to bring Steve up to the stage to give our address, and he also has a reading lined up. For those of you that don't know, Steve was just elected as our president for this year. Over the reins. I'll still be around as vice president. I'll let Steve fill you in on that. Stuff comes back.
Hello, everyone. Anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Awesome, so as Joe said, I'm going to be the president this year. It was a really tough election. There was nobody against me, and I still almost lost, so it turned out okay. But, so Joe's going to be helping me out this year as vice president. He's serving president. Following year, they become the vice president, so that way they can pass on the information and knowledge that they have from the previous years, which is awesome because I'm going to need it. Also, as president, it's not going to be, I'm not above anybody by any means. As a board, we all work together. There's not really anyone that's over anyone else. So I'm going to announce the other members of the board as well. Oh, hey, Ron.
Point it this way. Oh, yeah, good.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, so other members of the board. So Austin Edwards is going to be our secretary, and he's already doing a really good job with that. He's keeping us all on point, cracking the whip, and making sure that we're doing what we need to do. Victoria is also an officer, and she's going to be helping out Austin and the rest of us by doing that type of thing. Justine is, what's your position? Treasurer. Do you want to stand up and wave to everybody? It's Justine. Justine, treasurer. She's going to make sure that we don't overspend and all that good stuff. So making sure that we buy the necessary things and also save money when we go to do it. We also have Lorelei, who's been here as a previous guest. She's going to be a board member as well. We have Laura. Do you want to wave? She's going to be one of the officers as well. And if anyone gets the newsletter that comes out, Laura's the one that puts that together. So Joyce does a really good job with that. Marky is part of the board as well, and he's technically our greeter, but also just an officer as well. And we also have we have Rebecca here as well, who's going to be helping out with, I can't remember what we decided. Data, yes, so data. So things that are way above my head, which is awesome. There's many people like that as well. And then we also have some people that are helping out as well. So we have Brett. Where's Brett go? Up at the back there. So he sets up for us and gets everything going. So if anybody has any questions, you can flag down any of us. Usually we're wearing Sunday Assembly shirts. But there's a lot of people with Sunday Assembly shirts, so if you see one of us, you can make sure you flag us down and ask us any questions or suggestions or anything you have for us. I'm also going to do reading, which I'm going to tie in today with meditation because it's a new year. With the last couple assemblies we've had, we have been kind of going along the same theme of starting anew. It's a new year. We're trying to all be on the same page. We're trying to stay positive. There's some news that may or may not make things a little bit harder. So we're going to just try and take this new year one step at a time to change, to set things right. With hopes reborn and lessons learned, for steady ground we've all long yearned. Some things will keep, some must evolve. The path ahead will soon resolve. The road is rough, but we're prepared. For strength within, we've always shared. Through trial and doubt, we'll find our way. In darkest hours, we'll still not sway. So here's to growth, encourage true, a time to start, again anew. Embrace the dawn, let fears fall away. This is our moment to seize the day. With open hearts, we'll raise anew and face the world with a brighter view. So just something to think about. We're all in this together. We're going to get through it together. It might be a tough few years, but we've done this before, and we can do it again. Thank you. All right, Joe.
Thank you, Steve. So today, we have a very exciting guest speaker. His name is Joe Pellerito. He's been an educator for over 25 years, or been in education for over 25 years. He's a teacher, coach, and he's now part of an organization called Capturing Kids' Hearts. They do professional development, ongoing leadership support for teachers, principals, superintendents, and other educators. In Joe's personal life, he's been married for almost 25 years and has a college-age son. And some of you here may know him also from two podcasts that he's hosted. The first being the Reach Rose podcast, which had 5 seasons and wrapped up in 2023. And now, funny you say that, with Skeptical Scott. Through these podcasts, he's come out of the closet as a secularist and supports atheist and humanist causes. So I would like everybody to take this moment to welcome Joe to the stage. Joe 1, Joe 2. Appreciate it. I'm probably going to go without that, but I got to tell you, I don't have the best hearing, especially on this side of my head. So I'm going to count on you to be like, if you can't hear me. I won't take it personally or anything. Does that sound good? Yeah. All right, so let's rock. So if we start, first, yes, it says Skeptical Scott. That's my middle name. And I know many of you understand when you come out of the closet atheist or something like that, that not everybody feels really good about that. You know, I don't need to be the first thing that when somebody Googles my name is all these atheist classes. I know many of you understand. So that's why I go by Skeptical Scott in terms of the podcast. Now, I'll get to that more in a minute. My one word for 2025 is the word ask. I want to ask better questions, more challenging questions, embrace my skeptical side more. Steve, I want to thank you for your ask, because as I interviewed Steve on the podcast on season 1, during the interview, he said, hey, how about you come over to this place called Sunday Assembly Detroit? How would you like to speak? And I'm like, right on the podcast, I'm like, yeah, let me hear more about it, right? But I'm glad you asked, and you are a connector, man. It's amazing how you take a moment and connect other people to each other as well. So thank you for that. But I especially want to say thank you too, because I'm not from the 313. I'm from the 616, right? The 616. I'm not even from the 519, right? But according to our Uber friends, we're all trolls, right? Under the bridge. So we're here together, and so I want to hear some examples right now of New Year's resolutions that we've heard. What are some New Year's resolutions? Just, it doesn't even have to lose weight. Yeah, there you go. Lose weight is a common one, right? What's another one?
Exercise.
Exercise more. And these are all good, right? They're awesome some stuff. Now I could immediately tell who my musical friend was, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain to our non-musical friends what that is?
Sure. You've got a B natural on the 2024 side, and 2025 is indicated with C flat, which is essentially the same note as B natural.
Same note. I was really curious, like, who was going to get it? Who was going to get it immediately? So, well, then what have you, now that we've named some resolutions, what do we typically hear about February? Right? So Planet Fitness was just right down the street. Judgment-free zone, pretty popular place this month, right? But we all know what kind of happens in February. Guess what? The data shows that after 4 weeks, 64% have already forgotten what their resolution was or have dropped it, and that according to the University of Scranton, less than 10% even achieve their New Year's resolution. Why do you think they fail?
Change is hard.
Yeah, because I've done this all my life, right? This pattern, change is hard in general. I would say that's a great way to put it. Dr. Susan, how do I say her name? Weinschenk, I think is how we say it. According to her brain and behavior science, this was about 10 years ago, but she said the power of self-stories and the momentum of habits are two really important lines in terms of resolutions and whether something's going to actually happen or not. I want to start with the first one, the power of self-stories. And what she says there is that we tend to focus on the old story and put it in a negative. You know, like I'm overweight or I'm disorganized versus reframing it into something positive in terms of what we want to be, right? And so maybe more like I want to be more grateful. I want to take care of myself better, that kind of thing. So there's that power. I'm going to break off of this right now with another book that came out back in 2019. This is actually, he's my boss. Yeah, that's his name. Flip him, okay? I do work with an organization that works with schools and organizations all over the place. So that's my first career, I guess, has been working with high school students mostly, right? And, you know, this is I don't know how scientific this is, right? But I really do like the word picture here, the illustration. The first story is the one that was given to you. You had no choice in that, right? Where you were born, who your family is, all of that kind of stuff. The second story is the one you told yourself, which may be very incorrect because as we're growing up, we're listening to people maybe we shouldn't listen to in terms of who we are. You know, so growing up, I'm the youngest in my family of 5 by 13 minutes. Oh, wow. Good, I'm glad you got that, right? And so my identical twin brother, he's a meteorologist today. He works in upstate New York. He's super smart, and growing up, he was going to high school during middle school. So I wonder what story I told myself in middle school. Could you guess? You know? So that's the second story is messages we've received, but also messages we've owned and interpreted ourselves. So the third story then, it's the one you write. What would you rather have it be? So you can see how this connects to Weinschenk then in terms of having a better self-story than I'm overweight or I just need to do this more, right? Okay, so now I'm going to connect to a guy named Tim Wilson. And you'll see how this all comes together in a little simplified way, all right? But Timothy Wilson says, hey, storytelling is really what you want to do. You want to write your story realistically, of course. Write it as it is. But pay attention as you're writing that on what goes against the resolution that you want. And then once you see that, be like, okay, wait a minute. Maybe I need to rewrite this as a new way of being, the type of person I want to be, not just right. So, okay, so far this has been like psychological, like, okay, this is really interesting stuff. It sounds kind of complicated though. And yet, I'm gonna show you an activity right now that I've been doing for almost 10 years that I think takes all of what we just heard and makes it simple, okay? And change is not simple. I don't want to, if you just got to do this and you're all set. That's not what I'm saying.
right? But we also have to be thinking about the momentum of habits. It's not enough to have the story. So when I say momentum of habits, I mean something like, instead of, I'm going to exercise more. That's pretty big, right? And vague. But habits would be something like, when I see the grocery store Meijer that I go to every day, not every day, you know what I mean, every week, that's going to trigger me to park the furthest away instead of trying to get the closest spot. I don't have to do it everywhere, but if I just do it there at that store, that's like a mini habit, right? And the more I do that, then I can start adding other habits to it. So I was somebody who packed my lunch a lot, and so one of the habits I associated was when I go grab my lunch, I'm going to go ahead and go, wait, that's my trigger to fill up a glass of water, right? And to, right, that's what I mean by momentum daily habits. So this brings us then to the one-word challenge, all right? And I'll kind of explain those tiles in a minute, but I think this particular one word, where you select one word for the whole year. You know, this is a way of story editing that Timothy Wilson said. What's one word that can be my self-story, a positive outcome? And then throughout the year, attach small habits to it to gain some momentum. So I'm going to get very specific now. But I want you all to be thinking about what your one word could be for this year. All right? But as you're thinking about what that word could be, I'm going to share with you really the journey I've been on in the last almost 10 years. So we'll start right here. I think it was 2015 or 16. And I was experiencing a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and I don't need to go into all that, right? But I will say at that moment, I had just jumped out of full-time teaching with my high schoolers and trying this new thing, right? Anybody here of imposter syndrome before? 70% of us will experience it at some point, according to the research, right? Meaning, who am I to be here? So here I am, I was a teacher, now I'm coaching principals, and I've never been one. And coaching superintendents, and, right? All right, so that was kind of an anxiety-ridden thing. I don't know if any of you are teachers or know people who are, but you know how it is the first day of school? The night before. Hard to sleep, all of that stuff, right? Well, my job, that's every week, sometimes a couple times a week. I don't know what I'm walking into, right? And so that's what I mean by the anxiety that was kind of taking over. Also, I was fearing anxiety at home too. Why? Because my beliefs had changed. And I wasn't sure how my family was going to feel about that. You know, when you've adopted a son from a Christian agency, so I was feeling imposter in both sides, right? So what I turned to eating as an autopilot, dealing with all of that. I'm okay of saying I was, you know, a lot heavier then. But that's kind of what had happened. So this brings up the word peace. I needed to establish some priorities and practices that were related to peace. So I'm glad we started with a meditation, because I remember doing that. I'm like, I'm going to meditate, right? I'm going to tie this contextual clue of my phone of, you know what it's called, do not disturb, right? Before I let it come back, I'm going to first do a meditation, even if it's a minute long, and start attaching. It might look familiar to some of you, right? The next year was the word stretch. I wanted to do some things I didn't think I could ever do, right? Raise your hand as high as you can. Oh, come on, you can go higher than that. Come on, higher than that, right? Now, I'm not going to, yeah, thank you, Paul. Right? And eventually someone's going to stand on their chair and go, oh, but we're not, right? So change is never, it's never like a flip-flop, right? It's I can go just a little more. And you know what? If I can go a little more, I can gain some traction. So that year I was like, now that I've lost 30 pounds, I want to like get buff. You know, I want to sign up for my judgment-free zone and Planet Fitness, right? But then I was like, I'm going to run a 5K every month, right? Now, I wasn't a runner. And by the way, I have a turtle shell tattoo. That should tell you something about my speed. Okay? But And so by the time October rolled around, it was a marathon, 26.2. The only one I did, the only one I'll probably ever do. But I loved it, and I completed it. And it's so cool to go. Stretch. And what do you know? I'm still keeping some of the habits I learned in the first year with peace. Okay, now I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. I think you see the routine here, right? The following year, I remember as a kid really liking art, and I have a creativity bug in me, and I was missing that in my life again. I wanted to find some outlets. So like video editing and audio stuff and photography, like the one you see there, that's one of my photos, right? And I created a website. And I put all my artwork and journaling and all that there, and I didn't tell anybody. Right? I wasn't ready for that yet. I was just like, I want to just, for me, I want to have a place to put all of this, and that made me excited. Not only that, but I had dropped the old church I had gone to, and I had been on a mission to find a different organization to be with that would respect our interfaith marriage, right? And so I found a UU church, and there was a book there called Build Your Own Theology. I'm like, I'm going to create my own theology instead of having it handed to me, right? I'm like, this is awesome. So that was what that year was about. But then I was ready to put myself out there more instead of keeping it all here. And that's where that first podcast came out, the Rejoice podcast. And it was me using my voice and helping others use theirs. And so I won't go into a big story here, but the idea is, have you ever heard somebody repeat the same story over and over, and you're like, yeah, we've heard that before. Do you want to keep it, or do you want something else? And so the Rejoice podcast became where each guest would pick an RE word. So this is a form of the one-word challenge, isn't it? And they would kind of talk about the time that they decided to choose different. What was their pivot? And sometimes it was exercise, sometimes it was health, but a lot of times it was very real stuff too of, this is what I learned from going through some hard stuff, and this is how it's changed me. A lot of authors and all that good stuff. So that was really a fun 5 seasons, 133 episodes. Really, I learned a ton learning and inspired by other people's stories. So, but during that, I actually did this exploring of theology, and I kind of came out of the closet as an atheist during one of my shows with another atheist, and there was a penalty to be paid on that. More on that in a little bit. Okay. All right. Moving from here. That's the following year. The cool thing, I think it's hard to inspire people if you're not living an inspired life. And so what was cool is I was having a lot of fun, but it was great to bring people together and do stuff together. Now you've probably heard the very famous kind of Canadian geese idea, right? That, a flock will fly 71% farther than they could on their own together, right? And there's a lot of science behind it, rotating leadership positions and all that kind of stuff. And that really spoke to me. And so here, this is our first triathlon together down in Houston. Now this is Ron Fox. What a great name, right? Ron Fox, right? And with hardly any training, he killed me on the triathlon. That's fine. I got my medal, right? But I'm really proud of Jeff in his mid-60s, stage 4 cancer survivor of the lung twice. Lung and a half signed up to go swimming, right? And guess what? We're still doing this today. This was many years ago, right? I love that, I want to be one of those Canadian geese that honk words of encouragement, right? Because we're like encouraging each other, and we're going to go farther together than we could if we were by ourselves. So that year, the word was multiply. There's a little bit of a dad joke, fun guy in me, just so you realize that, right? But it did speak to me. I wanted to do more than just run. And that's why I kind of added other stuff too. All right, so far so good? Now we're getting closer to the current day. Does this look familiar to anybody in this room? Yeah. Yes! All right, good. We got some other Frisbee golfers in this room. I love Frisbee golf. see a path, right? So where are my people in this room that sometimes struggle with organization? Anybody? That's me, okay? That's for sure me. And so it was all right, you know what? I'm going to serve better, I'm going to be better if I can just hang on that word. That all right, there we go. So the word clear, I really focused on a lot of habits that were going to help me. I feel better when things are clear, but it's not my natural state, that's for sure. Okay? And then treasure is the following year. All right? We wouldn't need a whole another Sunday assembly to explain how our family came to be. But in short, here's the three of us. This is my son that's in college, right? Here's his birth parents. Here's my son's birth brothers. Okay? We got a big family. It's just drawn a little different. And we do life together. And I want to make sure that they know I treasure them. And that I prioritize my time in a way that shows that too. And this kind of goes together too, because I was so bad at organizing my time, I couldn't find time to spend with friends playing Frisbee golf, for example, right? So that was learning to say no, and I'm sure some of you can relate to that too, right? All right, finally, this is my friend Dave Warnock on the left. Anybody know that name by chance? Okay? Not a politician, by the way. But Dave Warnock, he wrote Childish Things, a memoir. I interviewed him on my podcast. He was an evangelical pastor for over 30 years, I believe. And then he chose up. And he paid a price in terms of, losing a wife, losing some connection with his kids for a while. And then he got ALS. Right? Terrible disease that robs your ability to use your muscles over time, right? Well, here, even though he can't use his arms, when you're underwater, your arms are a little lighter, right? And anyway, just so inspired by him. He invited me down to Beach Week, which he has every year. It's always called the second last annual beach party, the third last annual beach party, the fourth last annual beach party. He's very realistic that there's not much time left, right? He's lost his ability to use his arms, but he just beat me in fantasy football championship game, right? I sent him a cigar though, because I learned from him to appreciate a good cigar, right? I also learned though his saying and my saying that year. I know it's the one-word challenge, but I chose carpe diem, seize the day, which I heard this morning, right? Now this is my third tattoo. We see CT and FD, because his saying is carpe the diem, right? So I've embraced that, and that has led to this year then, which is the word ask, right? To not just accept things at face value, but to push a little bit, to go, really? Are you sure about that? And to do that for myself too, which led to the new podcast, which Steve was a part of, episode 3. Just launched season 2. This one's coming up in February. I'm loving this one, okay? Because this is my twin brother and I. That same twin brother, right? I invited him to a 4-day men's retreat about 13 years ago. And it was like a Christian evangelical men's retreat. 4 days. We learned some things. Right? But we were both kind of in a similar spot. We tried, so we hadn't talked about it since then though. That episode is about us going back and going, okay, here's the main points. What did you think? What do you call the S on? What are some things that you do appreciate about it? And we laugh a lot too. And we talk a little about South Park and all that kind of stuff. So that's what this is, but that's what Word Ask is all about. All right. So thanks for hearing my story, but this is coming back to you now. Right? Could you do a one-word challenge? Right? Is there already a word that you already thought of as your version 1.0? For me, I usually take a couple weeks and it kind of like simmers down, and I usually pick it in November because that's when my birthday is. It frames the following year of life for me, right? But I want you to be thinking of yours. Now this here is one of the schools I work at in Methuen, Michigan. And their whole staff did this, and they painted these tiles, and then they put it up in their staff lounge as a reminder of this is what I want to do, right? I thought, that's cool. So that's one suggestion I would have for you is, yes, think of one right now. but then go ahead and be somewhat public about it. Because then you're a lot more likely to do it, aren't you? If you actually put it out there, there's automatically kind of like, well, I want to do this, right? So one thing is to be public about it in some way. They did it as tiles. Now, when I have it in my bag, it's on the table, never mind. But anyway, a block of wood with my word on it that somebody gave to me because they knew what my word was. Again, cool way to visually see that. So that's what I would think for you then, about what is it that you want more of or less of this year? And how could you bring it down to one word for clarity? Okay? To kind of wrap things up then, this was just announced 2 days ago. One of my friends said her word is the word awe, A-W-E, right? She said she was so cold, but when she got in her car and saw the sun hitting her windshield like that, it just kind of created that sense of awe for her. And at first I thought, oh boy, she's going to go all spiritual about what God does, and she didn't. She just said, isn't it cool, the patterns that, like when you're looking for things, you find them. It's like gratitude. When you look for those good things, you find more and more. It's everywhere when you're looking for it. So may your 2025 have more of what you need and less of what's in your way. May skeptical thoughts be with you, right? And also with you. Thank you very much. Yes, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, maybe if people have thought about this is inspiring in this moment while you're saying this. Like, this would be a good time to just put it out there. And so I will say that last year, my word of the year was adventure, because it was a very challenging year for me. I left my career of 30 plus years. I bought a business that I knew nothing about. Relationships were changing. Like, my whole life was in flux, and I was so scared that I was just gonna lose my mind and get intimidated and just go under the covers and not get out. I'm just like, this is just an adventure. Everything that happens this year is just part of an adventure story, and I'll be better off for having lived it than not lived it. And so that was last year's word. And now as you're speaking, I'm thinking, well, what is this year's concept? And for me, it's to dig in. All of the things that I explored and all of the stones I turned over last year, I found some really great things. And I found some really great ways to live, and be a part of Sunday Assembly is a big one of that. And I just really want to dig in, get my fingers in the dirt on all of these great things that I want to keep from my last year, which was very adventurous.
Proud of you, man.
That would be my word for the year.
Very good.
Thank you.
But when you were talking, it actually made me think of something that I think we should all think about. It's inspiring in a 20-minute presentation. Or that words are sometimes very aspirational. You know what I mean? Like, I just gotta be, hey, I got news for you. 10 years later, I'm still like me. Like, I still have habits. I still have depression, anxiety I work with. It's not about being a different person, per se. But I do like my story better. And I do like the habits that have developed some direction for me. So in fact, my friend Ron Fox, that you saw there, his word last year was just the word real. Because he was going some real crap. Like losing people, all that kind of stuff. And he's like, my goal this year is, yeah, stay positive and everything, but I'm going to really feel this, and I'm not going to take it for granted. So I want to remind everybody that it's not just about aspirations, but it's also about kind of being real with yourself on where I am, how I feel. Yeah, JD?
Kind of related to that. So how do you handle cost as it came out of their cost?
Yeah, so the cost I had there, of course, fear, I guess I'm going to borrow from a Christian world a minute. I've heard fear is a liar before, right? I've also heard it as an acronym, false evidence appearing real. And that we use that to stop ourselves sometimes, right? So my fear was, gosh, if I say this, I'm going to lose relationships, right? Or, a school leader's going to Google my name and go, wait, I don't want him as my coach. You know, those were very real things. So as far as the cost, I mean, yes, the episodes I put out that were more atheist oriented, they got the most, I'll put constructive feedback. But they also got the most feedback on the other side. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that, because I've been thinking this for so long, I thought I was by myself, right? So in a way it was reframing of, yeah, I may have lost some depth of relationship with some people, but I've really gained a lot of relationships with people that are more real. Do they know me anyway? If I'm staying hidden? Is it a real relationship? So I had to reframe some of that, JD, and especially with, I don't want to go into a huge story about the adoption, but you know, we know the adoptive family very well. It wasn't just adopting our son, it was our grandparents too. We have more grandparents who are very religious, right? So it was that fear as well. But I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Only you can make the call on how real and authentic we want to be, but knowing that there might be a cost. I don't know if I answered your question. Kinda? Okay, all right.
I was just curious about one of the things you just said at the very end, which was hoping that people have fewer obstacles in the way of their goals. Don't you think, and this is my thing, the obstacles mean the goal was something worth achieving? Like, to have the obstacles is the point of achieving it. You face those and like, I mean, there's all kinds of things that we talk about. I talked to you about weight loss and working out at the gym. I mean, I'm also a recovered drug addict. I mean, I used to shoot up meth. I think the obstacles of getting past that are why the achievement seems so momentous.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a guy named Randy Pausch, he was pretty famous 10 years ago. The Last Lecture guy. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but you know, really bad diagnosis. He was on his last year of life. He would say, you know, two things. He would say, the obstacles show you how bad you want it. Right? But second, he says you can't control the cards you're dealt just the way you play your game. So play it well. Right? Yeah, the obstacle is sometimes think about lifting weights. You know? It's in the friction, it's in the I can't do this, that's where the most growth happens, is that obstacle. Right? If it was, so yeah, there's something about naming something like, I'm gonna somehow run 26.2 miles, and like setting it months ahead of time. That's a huge obstacle. I don't think I could ever do that. I don't know. But then it does create that goal. I wanna get around it. You know?
True obstacles that are in your way. You know, wishing somebody that your path is more clear, wishing that there are less obstacles in your path, and even helping them remove those where you can, that's not lessening the achievement by any stretch.
Yeah.
You know, it's only enabling the achievement and enabling you to get over those obstacles.
Great thought. Thank you. Yeah.
Hi Joe, thank you so much for a great representation. It's been very lovely. I just wanted to piggyback on Marty point from raise one key over here, and also just want to also piggyback on Jay's question and your answer in terms of in life they're always going to be obstacle and challenge, and they're also going to be everyone has their own story. And for me, I was thinking that even you're trying to lose weight, or if you have any challenge you want to overcome, just do it with the kindness you have for yourself. So for me is I hope to be more kind to myself so I can be more kind to others. And it will be easier to understand what other people's going through, rather than not the best choice in the past, or you just try to overcome new challenge for years, or just trying to connect with other people, dealing with the depression. So I have a friend that yesterday, she just started being to let a couple other friends know she's going through divorce. And it was a little bit, scary in terms of she put in a really good show because Joe wanted others to judge and to talk about their personal life. But every other friend actually decided to be very kind, understanding, and just take it
We're our worst critics sometimes, so. Any introverts in this room? Like, how about that?
Raising their
Raise your hand. Guess what? Me too. Like, I hate getting on stage, but I can do it. Because guess what I'm going to do after this? Sit in the car by myself. A couple hours, run a podcast, and retry. You know, but back to what you're saying in terms of being kind. When we're open and kind to ourselves, to others, it gives permission for others to do that too. And that's a gift.
But just to jump into, like, I feel like, I don't know if you guys experience, but for example, like, I meet up with a group of friends yesterday, just a new friends we just met, and we make food and we share with each other. It's more like a cooking club, like girls, and we're gonna bring like fiance and husband. And most of the time I hear the girl was so critic with their own dish, but they all turn out to be so good. Like everyone have like intended to bring home. And even like my case, I have food that I didn't get approved at home, like it was not bad. He didn't like it. I made a big like rock crock pot, and when we get home, just make a tiny lab. And he was like, "They like it?" I was like, "I don't know. I mean, this is what I got left." But the girls who went with me also said the same thing. What go make the baklava? It was so good, but she was like complaining all the time. She was so stressed because she thought it was not good. And I just realized that moment is, I don't know what happened at home in terms of did your husband only eat your own food or something, but I realized we're really hard on ourselves. Like I have to point out to the girl, especially the one that now she's getting divorced now. We are really hard on ourselves. We need to be more kind to ourselves. We need to love ourselves more. It's okay to be human being. It's okay to apologize, say things, and anyone who not, understanding, being kind to you, just withdraw. But it's really hard because, in real life we work, we meet with other people, and sometimes we just have to know when to walk away and when to be more kind to ourselves to understand that everyone will, really just give praise on people for their fullness because,
I guess I'll just say it like this, just to kind of wrap things up here. What I hear you say is, clear is kind, but don't be that clear. No. Like meaning, have I earned the right to be that clear with you? And if I have, then if you want constructive feedback, go ask, right? Right? So, thank you.
Thanks so much, Joe.
Yeah,
Thanks, Joe.
So, from what Joe was saying, I'm sure I'm not the only one in the room that was getting a little bit choked up when I saw some of the words, because some of those words have actually really meant a lot to me as well. Even when you're talking about fear. As some people know in this room, I wrote a book that's coming out this year. I was so afraid to show my wife because it's about trying to get along with people that have different beliefs. And thinking, what if she thinks that I'm trying to say something negative in this book? And so I just put it off for so long, and she said, I'm going to have to read it before it comes out. And she ended up reading it, and she's like, I really like it. So I'm like, wow, I was afraid for nothing. And I was, holding back from telling her about it, telling other people about it because I was afraid that she was going to think a certain thing about that. So, we already did that. So the next assembly is going to be on February 9th at 11 a.m. It's going to be Mel Lucier, who is a comedian at Windsor. She's hilarious. She's also X-rated normally. We try to tell her to go down to PG-13 for the next one here. Hopefully, the kids will be in a different room, so, but no, she's great, she's hilarious. She's also huge